Evening, everybody. It's 5:46, and this is your closing comment for Tuesday, the 28th of March. Okay, um, if you look up in the dictionary, um, beyond boring, there should be a picture of today. This market was just nowhere. It was, you know, up a little, down a little more, rally back up. Volume was incredibly light. I thought it was light yesterday at 4.2 billion. Today it only traded 3.9 billion. Everything was down with the exception of the Dow Jones Transports, which was up 47 and change, which is a third of 1%. The Dow was down 0.12%. The Nasdaq was down 0.45%. The S&P was down $6 and change, down 0.16%, and the Russell was down a dollar for 0.06%. So really minimal moves. However, the internals were a little hinky today. 1.6 to 1 up on the NYSE, 1.4 to 1 down on the NASDAQ. And as I said, 3.9 billion shares, very light volume. We had a lot of earnings after the close today. Not so much that there were a lot of them, but they're very common names. We had Lululemon, Micron, and Cal-Maine, and that's on top of this morning's Walgreens. Walgreens was up about 40 cents this morning, so nothing really overwhelming. It did gain a little during the day, was up about a dollar and change, finished up only 88 cents, but better than the pre-open. Lulu was a monster beat, and after closing 320.67 up 345, excuse me, it traded as high as 359.07. I have the last at 358.50 up 41.28 or 13%. Micron was a huge miss. Um, they had their biggest loss in history, and they missed on revenues. Um, I guess revenues were close to in line. The stock had closed at 59.35, down 44. They did rally up a little bit, got up as high as 61.22, but right now 59 and a quarter, down 54 cents, or roughly 0.9%. Cal-Maine, huge beat, biggest gain in history for that company year over year. And it had closed at 54.29, down 98 cents, traded up to 56.45. Last is 56.39, up $1.12, just 2%. But the big issue there has been supply. And so, we've had this bird flu or whatever that's killed off a lot of the laying hens or whatever that they are. And so this one has really performed, and they're not looking for a lot of change going forward from the standpoint of being able to produce more eggs. Rig had an interesting press release after the close. They received an order for 382 million of their harsh environment rigs. So these are probably deep water in an area that may be troublesome environmentally. Um, if you've ever seen pictures of the North Sea, that is the area. I don't know where these are going, but the stock 668, that's up 48 cents or 7.8%. And Vktx, which I mentioned this morning, um, It had closed at 912 and had been as high as 1454, and pre-open it was up $4.60 at 1373. That was a 50% move on positive test results for an oral version of their obesity drug. This afternoon, it continued higher, and the last is 1544, up 632 or 69%. Okay, tomorrow morning before the open, we have Paychex, Payx, and after the close, we have RH, which is Restoration Hardware, and SMTC, that's Semtech, that's a semiconductor. As far as the futures, the chart on the screen is the oil, another higher high, higher low to continue this rally. As I mentioned this morning, even if we were just to go sideways in here, this 5-day is going to cross the 20-day back to the upside. I've listened to a lot of interviews today, and I've heard a bunch of people thinking that their thought is that this may be the year where oil performs, but the stocks don't. There's been some underperformance in PXD, which is Pioneer, and some of the others. And, Buffett buying more and more Oxy has taken place on pullbacks, not on rallies. And so, a lot of these are somewhat soft. Gold was up 1970, Bitcoin up 475, the dollar was down 40 cents, the bonds were down just about a half a point, actually 13/32. So, uh, you know, more like 7/16. But nonetheless, that's where we are. We also had a bunch of statistics today, and I don't want to make light of them. International trade was basically a deficit. It was expected to be 91.5 billion. It was 91.6 billion, so nothing overwhelming. We also had the FHFA housing index, which rose 0.2% following a 1% decline in December. Case-Shiller rose 2.5%, which was consensus, but that followed a 4.6% increase in December. The one that I was concerned about was the Conference Board's confidence index, which for March hit 104.2. Consensus was only 101.5, and that was versus a revised 103.4, which was revised up from 102.9. That was kind of interesting because this was the consumer confidence for the period that included the week covered by the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. And, if you think about it, I guess it was somewhat confidence building that things got taken care of in such an expedient manner. However, there's also an expectations index. So while the takeaway from consumer confidence was positive, the expectations interest remains below 80. And that's the 12th out of 13 months in a row. And that is a concerning signal about future growth. So, yeah, they handled the Silicon Valley, or so it seems. But a lot of people are not all that excited about the fact that what we have to look at going forward. All right, everyone, I'll be back first thing in the morning. And as I said, we have tomorrow's a particularly light day, 7 o'clock MBA mortgage index, and February pending home sales, which are expected to be down about 2.3, but that doesn't come out until after the market is open at 10 o'clock, and 10:30 weekly crude inventories. Have a good evening.